All the YouTubers are saying scoring in Pokemon Unite is useless. Let's take a look. Yo guys, how's everyone doing? This is your guy Assassin Dave. Welcome back to Team 4 and Famous Family again. And today we're gonna react regarding the most common misconception on the podcast, You Are On Fire. I think this podcast is organized by Spragos, and the participants for today's episode obviously have the host, Spragos, you have Chris Hero, Lush, and Crashy, some of the most prominent faces in the Pokemon Unite content creating scene, as well as streamer. I'm a big fan of all of them actually, and they were talking about most common misconceptions in Pokemon Unite. I think when I was listening to this, like while brushing my teeth this morning, I thought it was a pretty interesting topic that they were saying. Some of the things I agree with, some of the things that was said, I actually have my own opinion. So we're going to go over the entire conversation, and I can share my opinions with you guys, and you guys can share with me your opinions in the comment section down below. Remember to smash the like, subscribe, and turn the bell on to all notification bells. So let's get started.
Well, so I was wondering, I'm not sure if you have something off the top of your head, but I'm wondering what you think might be one of the biggest misconceptions players have about Unite. So what's something that maybe you feel like the whole community thinks, oh, this is the thing, and I think we're all missing it?
I mean, I think it's scoring points. I think people tunnel vision way too hard on scoring points. I was gonna be honest. And then they show up as level 11 on Zapdos because they try to run into goals, dying over again, trying to get those scores in. They're level 11 for the Zapdos fight. They're beyond useless, but they scored 100 or 150 points, but in the end, Zapdos goes down and it doesn't matter. And I think that's one of the most important, like one of the biggest misconceptions. And also Rotom. Rotom is just the thing. I feel like that never does anything. It just baits your team into bad fights. And I see it in competitive as well, just in tournaments later on. I never see...
Now, for Chris Hero saying that the scoring is the most common misconception, and then he followed up tunnel visioning on scoring. Like, I agree with the second part. The first part, scoring is not most common misconception in Pokemon Unite. Scoring is the most important objective in Pokemon Unite. Obviously, that's why we had the whole Japanese scoring comp, where everybody just went to score, right? They have 5 Pokemons that have Score Shield, Body Barrier, run to your base and score because they want to win the game. And I don't think that's a misconception. That's just the Japanese understand the objective of the game. Now, when he said tunnel visioning, that makes a lot of sense. Especially in solo, duo, trio queue, a lot of people do get tunnel vision on scoring. Especially a lot of time I see people will literally sacrifice their life, sacrifice their fainting to go score like 5-10 points. Sometimes I can't understand that sentiment because a lot of people have like attack weights or special attack specs or even AOS cookie, and they want to get those stacks. So those make sense. But a lot of the time, most of the time, scoring does not make any sense. I mean, tunnel visioning on scoring. So over here, what he said on tunnel vision makes sense. Now, when he said a Rotom doesn't make any sense, he said Rotom doesn't do anything in the game. This actually cannot agree. Because in competitive, every competitive team knows this. Like the third Rotom, the last and final Rotom, especially Rotom that's still there, under 3 minutes. Basically, you're walking to a Zapdos fight because we're approaching 2 minutes, and you have a Rotom on the top side. That Rotom is much more important than the third Dreadnought, because that Rotom will give your team so much pressure going to the Zapdos fight. Imagine right now in competitive scene, every team has Hoopa because it's the most OP Pokemon in the entire game. And you have a Rotom, third Rotom, depends on the situation of the map, right? Let's say if the enemy team like still has a tier 2 tower, and you have a Rotom going to their base, guess what? If the Rotom is going in, somebody can go with the Rotom, because you have a Hoopa sitting in the center that can call you in at any time, and you have someone going to the Rotom, going with the Rotom and scoring 100 points for free. That's a guaranteed scoring, right? And then get a call back if your team is fighting the Zapdos pit, completely for free, without any cost, without any like positioning disadvantage. Before Hoopa showed up, you have to really think about it, right? Like, do I want to go with the Rotom? Do I not? Enemy team might just full flip the Zapdos and get it really quickly because I can't, if I go to the second tier 2 defense zone, I might sacrifice my positioning for it. Now with Hoopa, there's no such thing. Another scenario is if the enemy map top side is already gone, there's no more defense area, tier 1, tier 2 has all been taken by your team, and you have the Rotom. I call the Rotom base Rotom. Basically, this Rotom is aiming directly at enemy base. If that Rotom goes in, that's an artificial Zapdos. That is the same thing as if your team got Zapdos, basically. You don't even have to fight Zapdos anymore. If you're already in the lead and you have a Rotom going to their base, you can just run straight to the enemy base and scoring your points. Once everybody can go and score their 500 points, and you guarantee your lead, you guarantee your victory in the game. So Rotom is not useless. It depends on the time of the game. I do agree earlier on of the game, Rotom is not as important, right? Especially with Hoopa, you can just teleport up and down and defend the defense area now. Like with the hyperspace hole. Overall, I think it's based on the time and the phase of the game.
I watched like 10 hours of casting the last weekend. There wasn't a single Rotom who did anything. Like, it's a bit of map pressure, but like in the end with Hooper now, people just hyperspace between top and bot. It just gets defended. It just does nothing. But yeah, scoring points I think is what people just tunnel vision way too hard on.
It's so funny.
Okay. So before we continue here, there's another thing I want to mention. When you say that you have hyperspace hole to defend, yes, that's true, and also that's not completely true, because like the thing about the map pressure is not just a little bit. For those who have played against the Rotom in especially later stages, the second, third Rotom, you probably noticed. Let's say you are like a Pikachu. Pikachu cannot solo a Rotom out of pad. If you're like seeing a Rotom coming to your base and you try to defend it, outside of standing on your defense area while you're getting shield, getting HP, you will be completely taken down one-on-one auto attack by that Rotom. Rotom will win that fight. That's not a little bit of pressure. That means that person is hard stuck in that lane while the enemy entire team, they can decide, do I just like push with the Rotom? Now we have this huge monster that's pushing towards your base and doing a lot of damage, really hard to KO. Or do I just flip it, go to the other side of the map, knowing that you're going to have someone to defend that Rotom, right? Because Rotom is really, really strong. Even, like, let's say the only person that I can really kill Rotom are the people who have sustained, the people who do a lot of auto attack damage. For example, Cinderace, not even Decidueye can defend Rotom that well, unless this Decidueye has like Razor Leaf, you know? But we all know Decidueye players like to run Spirit Shackle because it's so strong right now. So not even a lot of the hyper carries can defend Rotom one-on-one. The pressure that Rotom offers, especially late game, is not a little bit. That I have to agree to disagree. You know, I think the Rotom pressure, especially late game, is absolutely insane. If you send a defender, we frequently see, by the way, in competitive scene, about 2 to 3 defenders or supporters defending a Rotom, and they can't even KO it. It takes them more than like 20-30 seconds to KO a Rotom. And that is insane. You know, thinking about just one little objective, you know, holding 2 characters on the enemy team in place while you can go steal their jungle, you can go farm, you can go score on the other side of the map. Because Rotom's hitting them, you can take the opportunity to land a wombo combo with your team and straight up kill the entire team and just push your advantage to the next level. So I don't think it's completely useless. I think Rotom does offer so much map pressure. The first Rotom, not really. The first Rotom really doesn't do anything. Like, it's easily defended, it's easily KO'd, but the second, third, those Rotoms are Rotoms to be feared.
I on my stream last night, you know, I, as you could imagine, have people that will come and tell me their solo queue woes. And so someone was telling me like how they've had some rough games and blah, 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 blah. And in their like tagline, they're like, oh, you know, I had a game where I had like, you know, 10 plus kills. I did so much damage. And I, you know, and they were like, and I always average a score of like 150. And I was like, let me hold you there. I was like, let me stop you right there. I was like, I want to make this clear. I was like, I think that everyone that plays this game should never care about how much you score ever. Like, almost never. Because the goal isn't how much can you score, it's how can you and your team score, right?
Yeah.
And so exactly. Even the stat line just feels so pointless to me. I pulled up my average score because I don't even know what it is. Chris, off the top of your head, do you?
Okay, so now he's getting into conversation mode. Now, again, for Crash, he's saying that I don't think anyone should care about how much you score in the game. I think that's partially true. That's true and not true. It really depends on what character you're playing, right? Let's say you're playing Greedent. Let's say you're playing Talonflame. Let's say you're playing Dragonite. Those characters has the potential to push score really easily, to push the early game advantage. Because you gotta understand, in Pokemon Unite, the ultimate goal to win the game is, how you win the game is you have more points than the enemy. Like, I can understand the overall sentiment of nobody should care about how much you score overall, because it doesn't matter, like, if you have 1,000 points, enemy have 100 points, you win. If you have 101, enemy have 100 points, you still win. It's all about score differences. It's not like overall how much you score. It's not like you score over 1,000, you automatically win. That's not how it works, right? So it's all about like having more than an enemy team. So it's more of a team game than individual scoring. So I understand the overall sentiment behind what Crash is saying, but what I have to agree to disagree is you shouldn't care at all. I think a lot of characters should actually care, because a lot of characters can push that early game advantage. Let's say you're playing a Crustle. That character is basically all scoring, like oriented. The whole thing about this character is that how OP it is on scoring, especially the old meta. The current meta not so much anymore, because the Unite move the shield doesn't really synergize with Score Shield. Nonetheless, this Pokemon runs so fast, can steal Pokemons, while Pokemons do them really, really fast and continue to score and stack those AOS cookie if you run that item. So a lot of characters have the advantage to push the early game lead. And if you have a lead going into the Zapdos fight, it pushes your team into a really good mental state. Oh, we know we're ahead, so we don't have to force an objective. We don't have to force a Zapdos. We can camping a bush when enemy team come Like we can surprise them, KO them, and maintain our lead and win the game. Or let's say at 2 minutes even, right? We know that we're a little bit behind. If you look at overall side of the map, let's say the map is at 2-2. Both sides have tier 2 defense zone up. That's it, right? Tier 1 has all been taken out. There's 4 towers gone on the map. Now, in that scenario, if you're playing a character like Dragon Knight, right? If you're playing a character like Gengar, and both sides are just like watching each other, nobody's starting Zapdos, guess what? If you go in and like stole like 100 points, you have a 50, you get in, and it doubles, you get 100 points, you destroy the defense area. All of a sudden, you guys are in control. And those scoring are scoring that matters, right? It's not like it doesn't matter completely. I mean, a lot of times scoring, I think, again, it's similar to the first point that Chris here was saying regarding like Rotom is useless. I understand the overall sentiment of it, but they're not useless in my opinion. I think it's just situational. It depends on when you score and at what situation do you score, right? Right now when I play solo queue, if my random teammates like to go score, I basically just look at a minimap and make a decision on my own, right? If they're scoring and nobody's coming to the Zapdos fight, then I know I shouldn't engage on an enemy. Sometimes it's really frustrating if your team is trying to backdoor and try to score. You're in the middle of a team fight. You have a teammate who just leave the team fight and then or doesn't even care about it, just when you score. You lose a team fight, they got Zapdos, they win the game. You know, it doesn't matter if you scored 100 points, like Crush you're saying. It doesn't matter at that point. But a lot of times it actually matters. You know, when it's like just watching each other, like one of those standstill situations, and you go get an advantage, boom. All of a sudden, the even like skill is shifted. You have the lead. Enemy now have to make a move. And when they're in the backhand half, when they're forcing their hand and they have to make a move, that's when you guys have the fighting advantage. We have a territorial advantage. You have a lot of other advantages that comes in. So I don't think scoring is purely useless. I think scoring is situational. You have to know when to score. When Dreadnought is coming out, for example, the first Dreadnought is especially important in Pokemon Unite right now. You cannot like just completely just go to the other side of the map, say, I'm gonna go score. And just leave the Dreadnought. Unless you know, sometimes, enemy already have 2 level 9s, right? Coming to the first Dread. We're screwed. We're really behind. Okay, well, let's give up the bottom Dread. Let's give up the bottom tier 1. Let's go to the top side and trade. Then the scoring makes sense. So again, all the scenarios I'm giving, I'm just trying to say that one thing. Scoring is not completely useless. It's just situational when you score. You just have to make the macro decision properly.
Do you even know what your average score is? No, of course you
I think
don't.
like 90 maybe.
Yeah, but like the point is,
sometimes I look at it like in the corner of my eye, but it's nothing ever paid. It's
exactly,
like
and
that's rate, but like
I like how Crashy asked Chris Hero said, and he answered himself. He said, "You don't know how much your average score is." And Chris Hero said it. Oh yeah, it's 119. I actually know.
the point, because you would never look at it intentionally because you know it doesn't mean anything really.
Yes.
And so I pulled mine up and I was like, oh, it's 90. I was like, cool, like whatever.
Yeah,
like,
I think I'm similar.
Exactly. And so and so I kind of like I was trying to make that correlation of like basically saying the same thing, like don't worry about it. Like play the game fundamentals, like hold your off lanes, like protect goals, like show up to objectives. Like when you play the game fundamentally, that's how you earn wins and not a high average score. So no, I completely agree. I do think that ironic enough, the game's literal win condition is also the biggest misconception that people
I think the same.
So before we get to Lush, point here, inputs here, I think overall, after you listen to the whole Crashy conversation, you get a better picture that he isn't saying that scoring is completely useless. He's just saying that before you worry about so much of scoring, you should worry about the fundamentals of the game. And again, that part, I 100% agree. Because scoring, even though it's the win condition of the game, is not as important now as like just basically understanding like the overall direction of the game, right? Understand the fundamentals, the flow of the game. If you understand those, you're gonna have a much better gaming experience. You're gonna feel like you're always improving, and that's something I think players should be focused on. So I 100% agree with Crush's second point regarding like you should focus more on improving yourself overall, understanding the macro, understanding rotation, understanding some other stuff before you think about I'm just gonna tunnel vision. Again, this ties to what Chris Hero said in the beginning, because it's not just scoring that's useless; it's more tunnel visioning on scoring. I think that's really bad too. Let's move on to Lush.
Same thing. Like I get the same thing. I get people saying like, I score like 150 points a game, but I can't win. And then like I'm playing like Pikachu. It's like, why are you scoring 150 points a game on Pikachu?
Exactly.
Like hit the enemy.
Stop it.
So okay, so here I think Lush made a really good supplement to the previous two speakers based on what character you're playing. That's basically what I said just now, right? If you're playing certain characters like Crosso, like Dragonite, like Greedent, even Azumarill, some of the characters can score really well. And if they score, by the way, they also get their Unite back faster. Let's say you're playing Talonflame, right? Every time you score micro points, you get your Unite back, and you already have the fastest Unite. When I play Talonflame, I use average 6-7 Unites per game. When I play Azumarill, it's the same thing. I use 6-7 unites per game by scoring micro points, you know, and those micro points add up. That's why my overall like average scoring is pretty high on those characters, you know. But Lush does say that somebody in the chat mentioned like I'm scoring 150 points on average and I'm playing Pikachu. Now when you're playing Pikachu, you shouldn't be forcing scoring. Like your goal, how you farm your unites by killing these small bees, small core fishes, and overall like just getting a huge advantage for your team, and you sending this to big scores, right? Because Pikachu's Unite is really, really fast. Same Unite timer as Talonflame and Azumarill. And Pikachu's Unite is really, really strong in a team fight, right? Your Unite is just game-changing. You can one-shot any of the hyper carries like Greninja, Cinderace. Doesn't matter how ahead they are compared to you. A level 14 Greninja cannot one-on-one a level 11 Pikachu. That's how it is. Because the reason why, I'm not saying like always, most of the time you can't. Because Greninja can use his Unite probably 2 to 3 times per game, right? Depends on like how often, how much early game lead you have. Now, Pikachu can use his Unite probably 5-6 times per week. And that's a huge difference. That's a huge power spike. Doesn't matter how strong enemy is, level 13, level 14 Greninja. This Greninja, if he's good, is not going to use Unite at 3 minutes. Like, it's 3:10, approaching 3 minutes, right? And you guys are fighting on the top side for the Rotom. Guess what? Most likely, 99% of the time, that Greninja, if it's good, is not going to use Unite move. Because if he uses Unite move at a time, he's not going to get it back within 1 minute. Especially when there's no farmer on the map, and everybody's sharing farm when you play solo queues. There's very little farm. Usually, Greninja player, last time he can use Unite is around 3:30-ish, right? Past that time, he's probably not going to get a Unite back on time at a Zapdos fight. And when you can't get a Unite back at a Zapdos fight, it's troublesome, you know? So, but Pikachu can't. Pikachu can easily just use Unite at 3 minutes, farm like 3 to 4 camps, and get a Unite back on time at 2 minutes. And that's a huge difference, right? So when you play in Pikachu, you're mainly going for the counter play. You're mainly going for the KO on the enemy carry. You're mainly going for the map pressure on objectives. Because you can zone, you can poke, do so well, and you always have Unite move compared to the other side who doesn't. And that's what you should focus on instead of like, oh, my team is fighting Zapdos, fighting Dreadnought, fighting Rotom on the other side of the map. Let me go scoring my 10 points. Let me go scoring my 20 points. You're underplaying how you're supposed to play this character. You're underplaying the power, the true strength of this Pokemon. You know, and again, that ties to what I said earlier, which is like, it's based on what character you're playing. Certain character, it's expected that you're scoring a little bit more. And in certain characters, there's no reason for you to focus on score. You should focus on something else. So I completely agree with Lush here.
Stop split pushing. You know, it's crazy, man. So many split pushes. The amount of times you will be in like solo queue and go to Zap and a Cinderace is scoring 50 on the enemy goal is ridiculous. It's
I just had it today. I had a team fight. Yeah. I was like, I was getting 3 Unite moves were on me alone, and then I see 2 of my teammates run to top, run to bot with full HP. Enemies are 5 on Zapdos, and they just try and score. The enemies were super low, literally living barely, and both of them score 200 points, and we lose Zapdos and lose the game. Mm-hmm. It's just like, yeah, nice. And this is something I think my viewers are tired of me hearing is.
Okay, so here, Chris here was basically saying what I said earlier. I think scoring is just situational. It's not that it's useless, not that it's not important. It's just, it's like, you have to really understand the macro, and attached to what Crash said as well, it's better to focus on understanding the overall, like, pace of the game, the rhythm of the game, understand the beat, or at what point should I do what. It's not scoring is useless, it's the overall win condition of the game. It's just, I think that there's a certain time to do certain things.
The first goal, people kill the first goal for, like, no reason. They just... Yeah, the goal is there. If we destroy it, the goal is down. It has to be good, right? Like League of Legends, you kill a turret, everyone gets gold, it's good. But like in Unite, it's such a disadvantage to kill a goal this early into the game. Yes. And people don't really know what to do with it. They kill a goal, they all run away towards the other side of the map. They completely do nothing with it. And it's like the most frustrating thing. You have like a set that you play solo queue, right? You have like 4 carries that need experience that can farm, that can't split push. And they just kill the goal, and suddenly you have no farm anymore. And suddenly, your Cinderace is going to be level 11 on Zapdos, your Greninja is going to be level 12, because you have nothing to farm anymore. And this happens almost every single game. Whenever someone kills a goal at like 720, I die on the inside. Instantly. Unless they like a split pusher, right? But no one ever does that. No one ever split pushes, pressures the enemy or dinos. There's so many scenarios where like it would be good, you know, killing the first goal, all others can run towards the second goal, there's no jump pads yet, but that never happens in solo queue. Yeah. People just kill the goal and move on with their lives.
It's actually
That's actually so true. Solo queue is kind of, you have this mixed feelings of helping a lane. Because a lot of times when you help the lane, when I play solo queue, I feel the same thing. And you guys see me playing a live stream. By the way, join our live stream. We stream every day with the link in description. And then you watch me on live playing solo queue all the time before our 5-man, which is for like 2 hours or so. When I play solo queue, when we go square tier 1, when we help a lane, we'll get so much advantage. Usually 2 scenarios that happens. Immediately when I leave, they got KO'd, our bottom tier 1 just disappears, right? Another thing is like, I will leave, I will get so much advantage, we'll go score, we'll so crush a lane. But our team, the randoms that you're playing with, they want to score so badly that they will destroy the tier 1 zone with 0 cap. Like when I say 0 cap means like if the zone only have 5 points left, they will score 5 points on it and just destroy the zone. And then that's before, like basically Chris Hero said, before 720 sometimes. And that will destroy the dynamic of the game, because if you do it so early, the next set of bees will spawn closer to their tier 2 tower, because their tier 1 is just been destroyed, right? The bees will spawn closer to them. That means you have to walk further away just to get some farm. And when you destroy tier 1, for those who paid a little bit of attention to the game, if you're on bottom lane, all the Aldinos on the bottom center area will disappear. Instead of spawning Aldinos on the bottom, they will spawn Aldinos towards their side of the bottom lane, along the lane, right, on the bottom side of AO's island. That means you'll give them a lot of free farm, because really, really close to your defense area, they get a lot of like benefits, like, you know, just sitting on paddock and a lot of HP, you can't really fight them. Even though you're ahead, a lot of times you don't really get those Aldinos. And by the way, not mentioning enemy will have jump pad after 5 minutes, or it's really easy for them to rotate towards those areas. So if you go there and play really aggressively, you might pay the ultimate price of feeding the enemy team. And if you're ahead and you feed, you give them not only the experience they will get from those Aldinos, they'll also, by killing you, they also get a lot of catch-up experience. So there's a lot of risk of taking down tier 1s. And then again, it's in solo queue, it's really hard to coordinate. A lot of times I just try not to score that much. Like if I see my random's gonna score, as much as I want to score, I will let the random score to preserve the zone. At least preserve it as long as I could. Like after first dread or after the 720B show up. This way the next set of bees, the 550Bs will show up, or 6-minute bees will show up in the center closer to your tier 1. So this way you guys have more advantage going to a next set of farm at least. So I 100% agree. Like in solo queue, this is piece of me does die when my teammates like destroy the enemy tier 1 way too early for no reason, for no benefits, right? It's 7:30, they destroy the tier 1 when there are 5 Aldinos, like 1, 2, 3, 4, just kill the entire enemy team. There's center Aldino on the top side of the bottom lane. There are 2 Aldinos on your side, 2 Aldinos close to their tier 1. That could be taken. That have given us easily 2 levels on average on the entire bottom lane, right? Like if you're like level 6, you can be level 8, you can be level 7 minimum for those supports and stuff. But instead, they destroy the tier 1, all 5 Aldino disappears, and then nothing's left. You know, an enemy have a bunch of Aldinos show up on their lane that they can farm to catch up and come to Dreadnought and potentially KOing our entire team.
It's the most frustrating thing ever.
It even takes it like a little bit further than that, because I now realize that I'm making decisions based on what I know other people are going to do. So like because I know that my teammates will kill first goal, I try my best to make sure I overdunk on it, right? Because like if you leave it at 2 points, you know it's getting capped at 2 points. And so now we know the deep strategy, but we can't even do anything with it because we just have to get as much value as possible. Like there'll be a goal that has like 5 points left on it, and I'll dunk like 28, and I'm like, man, that feels so bad, but like I know that's probably best case scenario because it's solo queue.
Okay, if you have 5 points left and you score 28, that's not too bad. All right, that's not too bad, especially tier 1. I think that's pretty decent, to be honest. You usually don't get that much dunk, like over dunk. If you're gonna destroy tier 2, for example, right, before the last 2 minutes, that means like points are not getting doubled. How much over dunk are you gonna get, right? Like potentially you over dunk 49 points maximum on a score area, right? Basically the defense area is left on 1 and you score 50 on it. So you have 49 over cap. I think that's the best scenario. So scoring 28 over 5, that means you score like 23 points over dunk. That's like really good already. Let's say 50%, you know, of the best scenario, you know. But I get what Crush was saying though. You make decision based on what your teammate does. And it ties to what I said regarding like when you play solo queue, don't always be frustrated regarding, oh, my teammates didn't come to Zapdos at 2 minutes. You know, if that happens and enemies are really, really good, it's just unlucky, right? Because a lot of times if you are like sitting in the, you're in the Zapdos pit at 2 minutes, your entire team is not here. You have like 1 or 2 players who are here and then 2 other people who are backdooring scoring. Let them score. What I do is I make my decision, like Crush said, based on what my randoms does. So if they are all scoring, like which happens very often, instead of coming to Zapdos pit and we don't have a Hoopa, what I will do is I will look for a stealing angle. If I'm playing Gengar, I have a really high kill threshold. I'll wait for them to do Zapdos a little bit lower and I look to steal. That's the only win condition, right? Because you just have to play the best of the hand that you're given. I mean, I've come to a position where I understand it's impossible to have any expectations when you play solo queue, so you just have to make decision based on what randoms do. If your entire team is 5 men in Zapdos pit, and guess what? I am starting a team fight, right? I'm forcing my team into a team fight. I know we're ready. Again, it's all based on what my team does, right? So you just have to make decisions accordingly and pay more attention to the minimap, handling the map a little bit more to get more information and collect those information and make the best decision for you in that scenario. I don't think you're winning for your team because we're playing solo queue, but make the best decision that you can make in that scenario to give yourself the best chance of winning. Another example would be if the defense area is down 20 points, I have a teammate who has 5 and I have like 18. So if we both score, that tower is gone, right? Because we will score 23 points and then we'll destroy the 20-point defense area. But if I see my teammates already scoring the 5, I will stop my 18. Even though scoring 18 will be a much better decision, right? Because I'll leave the defense area on 2 and my team can overcap another 40 on top of it and just win the game. I mean, win that defense area really hard, right? Overdunk huge. But a lot of times if I see my teammates scoring that 5, I would just stop dunking. Like I would make my decision that way to make sure we preserve the bottom farm for as long as I could, and then I will go over dunk when there's another opportunity. And trust me, when you play solo queue, there's almost always have an opportunity. Sometimes you're gonna have those really try-hard players who cap one person defending bottom, especially when they play with a Hoopa, they play in trio. They will leave their Hoopa on bottom lane or top lane with a hyperspace hole ready to defend. In those scenarios, it's really, really hard to play the game. But enemy teams are way too coordinated, way too good, and it happens all the time when I play solo queue. Like I would play with a trio enemy, have a much better trio, and they have a Hoopa. I have a 3 attackers. This is my trio, and you just that game you just have to do your best and try to flip Zapdos. Again, you make the best decision within that scenario, but some games are just very challenging. Let me put it that way.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Can I make like
same.
a small public service announcement here? All right, guys.
Sure.
If you are in the top lane and there's 5 enemies pushing a Rotom to your goal and it has like 10 points, just let it in.
Let it
Yes.
in. Yeah.
Just let it in.
Okay, so that's something I 100% agree with Lush here. That's thing people don't know. It's what I consider advanced mechanic in Pokemon Unite. I think just people to understand the fundamentals of the game is already hard enough. But you have to understand, sometimes you want to be given up certain defense area voluntarily. Okay, so what I mean is, using Lush's example, if your defense area is on 8 points, top tier 1, enemy has a Rotom coming in with 5 people pushing. What you want to do is defend the defense area, extend on pad, and try to defend a little bit. When the enemy Rotom get closer to the defense area, this is where you leave. Let the Rotom in. The Rotom is 20 points, right? It will destroy the tower, like if it's on 8. And basically the top tier 1, the enemy team overcapped 12, right? Because the Rotom went in 20 points. Or you can get a Rotom even lower. For those who do not know, if you hit the Rotom points will decrease. The more HP you hit from Rotom, the less points the Rotom has. Sometimes if enemy are not pushing, we will try to hit the Rotom to 8 points exact to match however HP the defense area has, and then let the Rotom go in. When the Rotom goes in, guess what? It's 8 points of HP going to an 8-point defense area. The enemy doesn't get any benefits. The good thing about it is it destroy your top tier 1, which destroy all the top center area farm, and it give you 3 Aldinos on your top area. So sometimes you gotta give up defense to give yourself more farm. This only relates to tier 1. Tier 2, you gotta do your best to defend. There's nothing gain or lose when you lose tier 2. Okay, so you wanna do your best to defend tier 2, but tier 1, strategically, if enemy has a Rotom coming in and then the tower is already lower HP than the Rotom, just let it in. If you have 16 points, if the tower is on 20 points, 18 points, 14 points, just let the freaking Rotom in. Defend the area until the Rotom get close and then just move away. Let the Rotom go in. Destroy the Rotom and then go back. You get all the Aldinos for free. All of a sudden, you're back in the game. So I 100% agree with what Lucia was saying here. I gotta say, listening to this episode, this portion of the You're on Fire hosted by Spargos and obviously participated by Chris Heroes, Lush, and Crashy, I gotta tell you, they have a lot of really good points. But my position is scoring is important. So win condition of the game, it's the only win condition of the game, but tunnel vision on scoring is bad. And it's a misconception in the game, I agree. Still, you have to understand scoring. You just have to understand when to score, how to score. All of those are important. So hope you guys enjoyed today's episode of Dave React. If you did, make sure to smash like, subscribe, turn the bell onto all notification bells, and remember to join our live streams. With that, instead of signing off, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye for now.
Just for the thrill of it, nothing counterfeit with you, just the thrill of it.